We all love a party, especially a house party. And house parties are even better when you don't have to notify your neighbour, you just invite them. I'm just glad I get on really well with my neighbour. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends, and I consider my neighbour my friend. In one of our daily chats over the fence, I told my neighbour about a different type of party. He was all excited until I told him I wanted to talk to him about our party wall and my plans to extend my property. I could tell that this worried my neighbour, and I wanted to ensure that we remained good friends throughout this project. Whilst you might be happy to mess about with your property, you don't want to mess about with your friendships. So I turned to the Party Wall Act as my guide. And in the current climate, there is a strong financial argument to extend your home rather than move house. The problem is in the detail, and understanding to change your dwelling is a lot more involved than just up and go somewhere else. A party wall is a wall which separates your property with your neighbours. If you live in a terraced or semi-detached house, you'll have a party wall. The Act is a guideline designed to prevent or resolve disputes in relation to party walls. Understanding the Party Wall Act is homework that is well worth the effort. It will save unnecessary issues, conflict and cost if you can use the framework as part of your project. The Act details the process required if you want to carry out changes to an existing party wall, which, if you are planning on extending, may include the insertion of structural beams for an extension or a loft conversion. So, let's imagine you need to excavate within 3 meters of a neighbour's property, especially if your foundations are deeper than theirs. Then the Act will help you achieve this within the minimum of conflict. It always makes sense to discuss your plans with your neighbour beforehand. If you don't, then they will just fill in the blanks, and a bit like your building, if you haven't got solid foundations with your neighbours, then the whole project will be shaky. Luckily, I have. But a verbal agreement won't do. A standard written notice must be prepared and offered to your neighbour at least 2 months before the planned start date. Ask your building company or architect for details. The person who receives the notice has 14 days to agree or disagree. We know it's not a perfect world, and sometimes you won't get your neighbour's consent, but once again, the Act has a section for this too. You and your neighbour can appoint an agreed surveyor. This provides impartiality, a referee if you like. The agreed surveyor will listen to both sides and draft a resolution to progress the project in a fair and practicable way. This is known as the Party Wall Award, and this document will detail the when and hows of the project. But the cost of such an award will fall on your doormat, I'm afraid. So, think carefully about what you want to do and how you want to do it. It still makes sense to extend rather than move, both financially and, well, financially. But make sure you take advice. Take advice from your surveyor, but most importantly, make sure you involve your neighbour. That way, you'll ensure to get invited to the next house party.